Hello, this is the RPG Pungent, the final boss of Internet Cringe Lords, coming to you today with a review of a game that I practically invented called Shadowdark. It is similar, it is pretty much my game that I made, Lion and Dragon, just like how Wolves of God is pretty much my game because it's, medieval authentic, and same with the basic experts, Makuhito, because it's Aztec authentic. It's historically authentic, so it's practically the same game. And it's the same game because it uses random advancement, which is also like another game that I invented called Traveler. I don't know if you've heard of this game before, but this game uses random advancement tables as well at character creation. And since I am the first person to ever do that, even though this game came out before mine, I invented this game too. Same with Pendragon. I pretty much invented Pendragon. I just did it better. Like my game is just, it's better than that one. So, this game is pretty good because I pretty much made it. So, uh, that's going to do it for the review, guys. Buy my books. Currently smoking cope. All right, how's it going, guys? John, the basic expert here, and in this video, we're going to be discussing Shadowdark. A while back, we did a stream kind of going through the quick start rules, and I don't feel like it was a necessarily fair. We were trying to judge what the game would be like based on the quick start rules, and that once you get the book in your hand, once you have the actual game, then you can kind of see exactly how the game is going to play, what it feels like, what is it actually innovating, what it actually isn't. It would be like I have my Makuhito quick start rules, and so you get a sense of what the game is about, but it's obviously lacking a lot of tools, a lot of GM tools, a lot of things within those that it's just there for you to run the scenario, whatever it is in there, and get a little taste of what it's about, whet your appetite. You can kind of see if you like it or not, and then make the choice from there. But I don't think, to comment on that last stream that we did, I don't know, it was like a year ago maybe, it's not necessarily the fairest way to assess a game. And now that I actually have the game in hand, I have the book in hand, I wanted to talk about it, give my honest review, honest reaction to it, and, not talk about all the other stuff about how, oh no, the marketing was evil and well done. If anything, it makes me want to learn from that and get better at networking, get better at all those things that could allow me as a creator with my own books to do better. So first of all, let's look at the book itself. I always like to start. It is Smith's-Own, so I like Smith's-Own books. I went this route with my book. I had mentioned in the last book review that I wished that Taunusborg was Smith's-Own, and it's just kind of a glued binding, which I don't care for as much. The black bookmark here. As you can see, the black bookmark, I like that. Solid hardcover, has like a nice sort of print on the cover. I like the cover art. It's pretty cool. Arcane logo symbol on the back. All in all, well constructed book. It opens and I noticed I had to leave. It was very stiff when I opened it. So actually, what I did to make it easier to do is I left it on the table like this, for like a day in order to let the book sort of ease open, because it was very kind of stiff. Some of the pages and sections were kind of stiff, and I wanted it like if I'm gonna run this, which I've played it a few times with my daughter. I feel like we'll get to that in a minute. What I think about mechanically speaking and what its selling points are and whatnot. But I wanted it to be able to like lay flat, which it still kind of struggles with, but it's a pretty chunky book. It's thick, so you're gonna, with a thick book like that, there's gonna be a struggle for it to sort of lay open like that. On the inside of the cover, you see that on both the front like inside areas, you have like quick reference stuff, which is neat. Very much like the OSC books, for example, if you're familiar with those. So you get some tables and some things like that that are very useful for quick reference here. which is nice. So it's nice when the basic rules are almost like a DM screen on the inside. I wish I could have done this with my book. I think that it would have been more expensive for me, and I wasn't ready to do that yet. Let's look at the table of contents. Someone had complained on the last video, you didn't show the table of contents long enough. Well, you can pause, but for this video, I will pause here so you can see all the sections that you have: character creation, magic, rules for how to play the game, game master stuff, monsters, treasure, and we get right into the introduction. I do think that I get the design choice here in the book, with it being like, oh, it's actually coming apart here. Whoops. Um, with the font being so big, some people like made fun of this book with like how big the font is. Oh, it's for children. It's a children's book. I know a lot of grogs that have bad eyesight. My wife just recently started having to wear glasses, so we're starting to get to the age where our eyesight's not super great. Gotta love the mid 30s to 40s here. That's it's always fun. But here you got the basics. We have our character classes. We have stats, ability score modifiers. They're not quite like 5e ones. They are a little closer to BX ones, which means it's going to be a little bit more forgiving, especially if you're rolling 3d6 down the line for ability scores. That you're not going to be. It's not like 0e where you're not going to be. You're hardly punished really for bad scores, aside from if it's a prime attribute, prime ability score, and it's going to hurt your leveling. But that's about the worst that you're going to get. You're not getting any mechanical penalties beyond that most of the time with low scores. Um, I like I like the quick and easy description. Some people are making fun of the way the writing is, and I kind of get that. It's goblin, clever, green, clever beings who thrive in dark, cramped places, as fierce as they are tiny. Known for known the common language, and you can't be surprised. So you get your special abilities. So the races are like very simple in this game, and the text is very simple. And some people are making fun of the language. Like we'll go to the back over here. Let's go to the monster section here. Um, with like monster descriptions. Uh, not like most of it was like I could find it like an elephant here. Uh, mighty mammals with tough hide, floppy ears, and a trunk. Like I saw a friend of mine on X making fun of that, and I get it. Like some of these descriptions aren't like poetry, You're not gonna get any of your high Gygaxian in here if you're looking for that. It's very stripped down and to the point, and in some cases mechanical in its writing. I can't really critique it too much because my writing in my books isn't super great either. Um, Grim Jim gave me some good advice recently in his recent review of Makuhito. He was saying like the writing style could have used a little bit more pizzazz, and it's true. I have a very myself. I have a very like mechanical writing style, so I want to be careful to throw stones in a glass house here. But it is something to look at, that is kind of like a valid um, critique of writing style. I would like people when they read my books and when they read other books to be excited about it, and um, I think what's going on here is that this is a kind of game that gets you like straight to the point in playing. You're just getting straight to playing, and you're given the bare bones of what you need to play. And I think that was a conscious decision by Kelsey because she has written 5e adventures which have won awards, and they're well written, they're well done. So it's not like she doesn't know how to write. So the way I see it is these criticisms. This is a purposeful thing, and so I guess you could. It's not because she can't write or she's bad at it. Uh, but I think it's because this was a purposeful decision in order to make the game easy to pick up and play and reference, which I appreciate that as well because sometimes people get overly verbose and they think they're like this professor writing, and I've fallen into this too. Sometimes I can be, I, what could be explained in a sentence is explained in a paragraph or two, and it's just too much sometimes. I get that some people like that though too. So to each their own. They're gonna have different tastes in that regard about it. So let's go back to our where we were here. We had ancestries. Some people were complaining about the ancestry thing, and from what I heard, she meant to use race, and ancestry was not there to be like this. We're trying to get away from bioessentialism and be inclusive or whatever. I don't think there was any politics behind this. What I heard was during the OGL crisis, she decided to change the name to this because she was trying to get away from the OGL in a lot of her text. And I mean, for the rest of the book, there's nothing really in it. A lot of people want to try and assume the author's political views over it because she is so well accepted in the 5e sphere, and she's friends with a lot of people in it that they want to assume politics onto her, and they are groping the bottom of the barrel in the dark uh, to find any kind of political motivation because it's not in the book, which is what I appreciate. Like, this is what I said on stream a while back in the Shadowdark stream recently, where we talked about the sort of jealous and envious people in the hobby, is that this is what we want, right? We want a game that sort of just is a game. And even if the author has politics that we don't agree with, we just want the game to be presented in a authentic way to what it's trying to be. And if it's just a fantasy game, we just want the fantasy game. We don't want a vehicle for political activism of any stripe, right? I thought that's what we wanted, and that's what this is, and so I will compliment it on being just that. I do like the art too. I think the art is cool, very evocative of like old school style and feeling. I think it's has a really good aesthetic to it in that regard. The layout is nice, as you can see. It's very clean. People are complaining about how slick her presentation is in her book. Well, she took a $15 Udemy course. You can do that too. I taught myself Affinity. Makuhita looks pretty good. It just takes practice. Maybe stop using like a Word doc to do your layout, and your stuff will look better. Even with a Word doc, you can make stuff that looks good. I mean, Basic Fantasy I think was made in Word docs, and it's not like layout like this, but it doesn't look bad. But you have your basic classes. You have your fighter class. You have your priest, thief, wizard class, and then you get to the backgrounds and stuff like that. Um, it's interesting how it has like these, you when you level up, you get your hit points, whatever your hit point increase, you get your level, and you get a random sort of ability that you roll 2d6. And I think I was overly harsh on this before. I think looking at it as a whole again, I think it works and it's fine for what it does. Every class has their own 2d6 table that it can use. Spellcasting works a bit differently. Okay, you have your thief here too. Spellcasting works a bit differently. You sort of have access to the spells, and you lose a spell. It's a roll to cast system, and so you can cast a certain number of spells, or you have a certain number of spells known that you can cast. And then if you fail, you don't you're not able to cast again. Let's go actually look at that section, because that is definitely something that's a little bit different from these sorts of things. So when you cast a spell, you invoke magic to cause an effect. Casting a spell takes your action. Characters with spellcasting talent can cast spells. To cast a wizard spell, make a spellcasting check by rolling 1d20 plus your intelligence modifier. To cast a priest spell, make a spellcasting check by rolling 1d20 plus your wisdom modifier. The DC to successfully cast a spell is 10 plus the spell's tier. So if it's a level 1 spell or level 2 spell, level 1 will be 11, level 2 will be 12. If you fail your if you fail your spellcasting check, the spell does not take effect. You can't cast that spell again until you complete a rest. So it's just like a different roll to cast, a different take on spellcasting ability from a lot of these other classes. And you can see, I mean, compared to old school, you start out with a lot of spells, but the difference being that these are roll to cast, I guess, so it balances out. In older editions like BX or Advanced Dungeons and Dragons or Zero E, you're not your spell's pretty much guaranteed to have some effect, right? It just goes off. It's more of like a resource management thing, and so this works fine. It's just a different take on it. It probably is easier maybe for some players as far as bookkeeping is concerned. I think it's just a different roundabout way of getting to that point. Um, I mean, there's not much different from that. Like, it's very much like you have like sort of almost 5e modifiers on ability scores, but they're not quite BX. They're definitely not AD&D or 0e, which the worst you're gonna get is -1 on some ability scores, best being a +1. I like the 3-tier alignment. I think that is cool. We got some example deities, titles. I think that's cool. Definitely something that harkens back to older editions like AD&D and 0E, where titles were something cool that you got. Got starting gear. It uses gear slots for that. If you like that, then you like it. If you don't like it, then you don't. I personally like tracking encumbrance and coin, but I'm old school and I don't have a problem with that. I also think that people kind of make a bigger deal out of coin encumbrance than they need to, especially when you look at 0E. And generally, like at character creation, you're counting out your gears, weight, and coin and what you're carrying. And you generally don't really have to count that out again, and it's just a treasure being added on top of that. So it's not that hard to keep track of encumbrance in that regard. So you have your level advancement here. It is not necessarily gold for XP. Um, XP awards are based on the quality of the treasure, and so it is sort of, but it's different. The quality of the treasure and boons you gain during session. GM should see awarding XP on page 117 for guidance. The GM can award XP right away or at the end of each session. To gain a level, you need to earn your current level plus 10 XP. So, yeah. Random characters. So this is nice. I think this is something cool that it works well with how stripped down Shadowdark is, but you can sort of just roll. I think this is good for like generating NPCs and things like that. You can just quickly roll up a character, roll up the stats, pick a background, and then use these things to pick a race, an ancestry, a deity, a language, starting spells for wizards. All that stuff is great. We went over magic. You have different level spells or tiers of spells. You got your spell casting spells here, descriptions. I like that they're more in a more old school flair rather than I feel like the overly verbose 5e style is a little much sometimes. I do like the sort of stripped down spell description that's more just mechanics, and then the player or the GM can sort of look at what the mechanics are doing and add a description of their own over the top of it. I think that's nice. One thing I forgot to mention too, I should go back to gear, is it does have some 5-isms and weapons I should mention. So you have finesse, so you can use your strength or dex in order to wield a weapon, which is very much like a more modern take. In 0E and older editions, it was like missile weapons like bows used your dex, and it wasn't added to the damage. And melee weapons used your strength, and you could add the strength bonus if you had damage bonus to the weapon. Although you couldn't do that even in 0E. Strength didn't do that in 0E, but it's for another story. Got gameplay examples here, which is nice. Rolling dice, luck tokens, making checks, gives you examples. Time, One of the interesting things about it is that it uses torch. So a torch burns for like an hour or something like that, I think. So you're encouraged to use real time, like an egg time or something like that, in order to check. So let's say like in a 10-minute turn, it's actually 10 minutes at the table. And so as the players are sitting there discussing, you got the timer going, and if they're taking too long to discuss stuff, then it's like, all right, it's a new 10-minute round. I have to check for wandering monsters, right? So you can roll and do that. I do think that that's a good way of um keeping the players focused on the game itself, in order to get them to make a decision. Because we've all had that where the players are sitting at a door for like 2 hours discussing what to do, and it's sort of like, come on, guys, let's go. And of course, you can just start rolling for random monster checks. You can start saying, like, hey, you guys are taking a long time to decide this. I'm going to start checking for monsters. Of course, you can do that. But I do think that like having an actual timer at the table is something that is smart and gets the play moving. It's not super duper innovative in that like people have done this for a while to keep players moving. Like I've heard of GMs playing BX for a while or AD&D who put like sand timers or something. They especially bring it out when the players are taking too long to discuss. So there's definitely been like variants of this, but it's been codified in the rules here, which I think is quite interesting. So um, I think that's neat. The initiative I think is like it just kind of goes around the table, from right to, turn order, right from the start. Um, I think it just goes around the table back to the GM. Rules for crawling, stealth. I mean, I think these are all things that we basically know. We got carousing, which is cool. So carousing is a way for you to convert the coin you've earned into XP and other benefits. You'll likely come out of a carousing event with a new NPC contact, whether friend or foe. You might even acquire a new magic item if you're bold and lucky enough. Carousing can last for several days of in-game time, so the GM will use the passes rule, page 82, as needed if you want to play out the gambling scene in detail. Blah 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 blah. So. Um, the carousing thing is different where you can use there's carousing tables here that you can there's modifiers and things like that. You spend gold, you can get benefits, you get, like it said, NPC contacts. It's all neat. I like giving players things to do during downtime, and this is probably something that you could use in any version of the game. And I think that's kind of where the value of this book will come in for me personally is, I'm probably not going to make this a regular game that I run. It's a good one-shot game, maybe. For me, I'm not saying that it's not built for campaigns. You can run a campaign with it. People are and have. I'm just saying for me personally, I'm not going to probably run a Shadowdark campaign, but I think that it does have tools in this that are very nice for most GMs. I like tables. We'll get to that section here. You got GM advice, modes of play. We got random encounters. You got the distance, what they're doing, reaction rolls. I love reaction rolls. Traps, hazards. Lots of tables for that. Got the stuff for rewarding XP. So this is where you get like poor, and you got like examples of what the treasure is, and then thus the XP value for it, which is nice. Something happens tables. So I love D100 tables where you can roll them and something happens. You get my dice here. Let's just have some fun and see what it is. So 70. What is 70? Stampede of wild animals bursts into view. You got stuff like that. Rumors. What do we got here? 72. A volcanic eruption revealed tunnels in the caldera's walls. So got some rumors here that you can use adventuring creator, which is nice. So you'd roll for each column, and that's going to give you like an adventure here on a d20. So destroy the cult in the magical library. You can start throwing stuff out like that. Adventuring site names, which is nice. You roll and you get like Temple of the Shrouded Storm. You know, um, so I like these sort of zero prep tools. It's kind of nice. Even if you don't use exactly what's rolled, it's nice to give yourself at the table a prompt for when the players go off script. And I like these kinds of tables. They're just good tables to have in that regard. NPC generator, rival crawlers, so name generators, which are nice. The dungeon. So I I I think that the dungeon. This is where I get to like a criticism, and I've talked to my buddy Crossface about it. It's an admin on the server and has his own YouTube channel as well, which he needs to upload more to. Get to work, Crossface, uploading videos. We both agree that the dungeon generator is a little bit lacking. I think it's a neat concept, but for a game that's about dungeon delving, I would want a bit more. And I think that the Appendix A dungeon generator is maybe a little bit better in a lot of respects. But I do appreciate Overland Hex stuff and stuff that might be a point of interest in the in the hex terrain as well. Settlement maps, taverns, cool pieces of art, and then you got like random encounter tables for lots of different areas, castle district. Like this stuff is like where I think the book kind of really shines. Is I love these kinds of tables. They're extremely useful for solo gaming, and even if you're not running Shadowdark, you could use these tables I think to great effect for a low to zero prep game. And so for me, I'm zero prep. Anything that supports zero prep in a good way like this, I think is a bonus. It's a good thing. It's makes me like it a lot more. So jungle. So you got lots of stuff here. Pages and pages of just different kinds of encounters that can occur in these areas, which I think is nice. It just goes on and on and on. University district. If you wanna raid. What was the recent adventure? I can't remember the name of the magic school one because I don't care. But monsters, you get a lot of monsters in here too. You got a monster generator, which is nice. I'm working on a monster generator in Atomic Punk. I think the monster generators are cool. I think Adventure Conqueror King has one as well. I think monster generators are cool because a lot of characters are familiar with like trolls. So you describe a troll or a creature like that, and players kind of know, oh, we need fire. They start to metagame. But something like this, you want to mess with your players. You're like, they can go like, I don't really know what that is. What is that? It's terrifying. And I think that's a good way of scaring your players and keeping them on edge, which is nice. Got lots of monsters though. I appreciate the wide variety here. Again, some people are complaining about it, but I like the small, tight stat blocks, easy to read at the table and to understand as well. I think the art pretty cool too. Let's see. We'll get through all the monsters here. You got lots of monsters though, lots of stuff that you can throw at your players. And apparently, and running it with my daughter and hearing other people talk about it, like this book does solve a lot of the problems of 5e, and because this is like a hack of 5e in a lot of ways. This is 5e. I would say this is like taking 5th edition and chopping it down and streamlining it and having it be informed by BX. It's not a BX clone. It's not. It's like taking 5e, stripping it down, and BXifying it. And what comes with that is you're sort of, I think, removing the overly powerful nature of 5e PCs in a lot of ways, and you're bringing it back to a type of game where they actually feel real danger. I feel like 5e is one of those games more often than not where you almost die and you get it, which is fun for a while because the players start to it's great having that story of like, man, remember when we fought that Gorgon and we almost died, but man, we beat it. Like that's fun every once in a while, but after a while, I think players and GMs start to realize that's kind of what 5e is designed to do. It's one of its, I think, ultimately its fatal flaw. It starts out great, becomes a fatal flaw because you start to realize that the game is sort of protecting you a little bit, and more it protects you more than it should. And I think Shadowdark does a good job of removing those protections and actually making the player characters, feel real danger in the game. So Lots of monsters. Huh. And then you get your treasure tables. Gotta love good treasure tables. I think these would probably be applicable to most any game. Maybe with a little bit of twisting back and forth here. So, or modifying if you need to. Got random magic items, armor, magic armor, which is nice. Potions, scrolls and wands, utility items, weapons, item personality. So I like this is very much like a 0E sort of trope. Magic swords with alignment and egos, and they want to like almost every magic sword in 0E is magical, and that's sort of why I think clerics in 0E are not allowed to wield bladed weapons, because if they pick up a magic sword, it might force them to do things contrary to their alignment and contrary to the edicts of their deity. And so I think that's why in 0E they can't use magic swords, because most swords in 0E have an ego, they have motivations, they can swap alignment, they can hurt you if you touch them and you're of an opposite alignment or not the correct alignment. So to me, it just seems like it's something that clerics just don't want to mess with. So I'm happy to see players, modern players, sort of mess around with sentient magic items, sentient weapons. I think that that's a neat thing to do, and it makes for fun stories too. And then designing magic items, which is nice. And you got some ready-made ones, which is nice. Um, I think these are probably applicable to most versions of the game. Just looking at like the longbow here, it's a +1 longbow. You could easily port this into anything if you're willing to use advantage or disadvantage on it, because that this game does have that as well. Advantage, disadvantage. Again, it's built on 5e, so it's going to have that. If you hate that mechanic, then you're not going to like it. But if you like it, it's in here. Um, and yeah, it's just magic items. And you got a character sheet. Let's look at the character sheet here. Very simple. It's kind of nice. Um, again with the gear slots and stuff like that. Very simple character sheet. Fits on one page. I like games generally speaking that can fit on an index card, and I think this is a game that would fit that as well. If it's easy to fit on an index card, and then you got if you want to make your own Shadowdark content, you can, in the Shadowdark license. So, and then the end of the book here. So, what are my thoughts on this book? I think that it's a pretty good book. I don't think is it overhyped? Is it an overhyped game? Maybe. Maybe it is. Does it actually innovate and do interesting things? It does. I think the torch mechanic stuff is interesting. I think what it's done is it's a good bridge game. I would say that this game occupies a similar area that Castles and Crusades, for example, operates in, where it is a a more modern mechanics game that looks back to old school and tries to be informed by that while keeping the things about modernity that a lot of modern gamers enjoy. I think that's what this is at. And I've had many people in the comment sections of my videos talk about how they want to get their players to play BX or Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition or even 0E or one of my games like White Box, and they're just like, my players are not interested. But this might be a good entry point into them where they can experience the feel of an old school game, without the icky, yucky old stuff that they have this perception of, right? And if they experience it in this way, it might make them more interested in running actual older games. I mean, really, that's what the OSR has really done for a lot of people, hasn't it? Where, you know, you have a lot of players that are interested in running maybe BX or 0E, but they're like, I don't really want to play actual 0E, so I'll buy the Basic Experts white box, or I don't really want to play BX, so I'll buy old school essentials. But it might get them interested in some of those old modules, or to just pick up those old editions and go, what do the rules actually say? And I think that this might be a good entry point for some people that want to enter the old school sphere, but they're not sure where to start. Or for GMs, again, it's a similar area as Castles and Crusades. So my thing with Castles and Crusades and why I like that is like I love AD&D, and Castles and Crusades has a lot of AD&D isms to it, especially with the monsters and things like that. But it also has a lot of modern stuff that players like. It has the kind of a bit more overpowered PCs, but they're not super overpowered in Castles and Crusades. You can still die very easily, but it has those things in it. So like me as the GM, I sort of get to run old school, or at least old school feeling things at my table, and the players that want to have that modern sort of aesthetic or modern sort of feel and presentation to the rules, they get that with Castles and Crusades. So again, this is just a similar niche to that. Because I mean, Castles and Crusades, the siege engine is unique and interesting, but it's still just roll a d20, beat the target number, right? It's not super groundbreaking, but it is a well beloved game. I like it. I recommend Castles and Crusades. So I think that this book fills that area for people where this is an old school feeling game that you can get your new school loving players to play. And so you as a referee can get that old school feel. Your players get to experience it, but they get to experience it in a modern sort of presentation. And I think, they may like that. You may like that. Everyone kind of wins in that regard. I don't think. I mean, it's a fantasy role playing game. It's a roll a d20. It's a d20 fantasy role playing game based on D&D. There's tons of these out there, but this one does present it very well. It's very easy to reference, very easy to understand, and so I get the appeal of it. The art is really good. The layout is nice. The book quality is nice. Um, so there's lots of pluses to it. You might be able to complain about maybe not enough there as far as inspirational descriptions of things. You just get quick little blurbs. And obviously, like I said, I've seen some people complain about that. You could take it or leave it. Whatever. That's going to be a preference thing more often than not, in my opinion. Um, I do think this is a game that you could run old school modules fairly easy with. So, like, if you wanted to run, like, Keep on the Borderland with this, I think you probably could do it very easily. I know lots of people are doing that, actually. Um, I do think some people have said that it doesn't seem built for long term campaign play. Um, I, I I do think that it can do that. I do think that it does have the ability to do that. Um, I think that it can easily do that, but it probably does shine a bit more in one shots or shorter campaigns, convention play. I've heard a lot of people that played this at conventions and they really enjoyed it. So it obviously is. It's one of those games that I think is probably well suited for both. I don't want to pigeonhole it and say no, you can't run long term campaigns with this. You definitely could. I think there's enough here with the zero prep stuff. That's the whole point of zero prep, is like this ongoing sandbox game when there's everything at the player's fingertips as to what they want to do and explore. I think that's here as well. So all in all, I think if you're an old school gamer and you already have BX, you already have AD&D, you already have Zero E, or you already have your favorite clone, you already have old school essentials, and you're like, I love old school essentials. My playgroup loves old school essentials. You're probably gonna get significantly less out of this book and this game than someone who's coming from 5e. You might get again some use out of the random tables in this, but that's maybe it. I don't really see this book winning over many that love actual TSR old school editions. Own them, play them, master them, and run them. I don't think that this is designed for those people though either. So there's that. Um, so would I recommend it? It's going to be a depends. I think if you're running a game for kids, there's enough ease of understanding for kids to get this game, but there's enough depth to it to where adults could enjoy it too, even for again long-term campaigns. I think that if you are in the like what I said earlier, a GM who's in a position where you want to run old school, but your players are not up for it, you might be able to get them to try this. You know, hey guys, let's play this. It's like streamlined old school. It's built off of 5e. They might be willing to try this. And I know the Cursed Scroll stuff offers extra classes and things like that. I know players love their player options. They're not happy with the core classes ever. Those Cursed Scrolls offer things like warlocks and lots of different extra classes that they can play as well if you want to pick those up as well. So it's going to be depends. I would give it a recommend for someone in that position for sure. If you have players that are like, I don't want to play the gross old stuff, but you want to play the gross old stuff, this is probably a good book for your table. If you're looking for good random tables and you're willing to maybe get the PDF or this hard copy, it's going to be a good book for you. If you already enjoy old school and you're already into it, you're not going to probably get much out of this book. I'm going to be honest, but I don't think that this book was intended for you to begin with. So there's that. You know, Kelsey had built up a large 5e community around her work, and I think this book is for those kinds of people. I mean, that's just what it is. So my recommendation is going to be depends. If you're already playing AD&D, you're already playing 0E, you're already playing BX, and you're already playing Rule Cyclopedia, BECME, whatever, you probably don't need this book. You're probably already happy with what you have, and unless you really want to check out the random tables and use those, you can probably skip this one. If you're in a position where you have players that don't want to play old school, but you do, you might be able to get them to play this game, and therefore everybody's happy. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. Shadowdark is pretty cool. It has nice presentation, nice art. It's a solid game that does what it says it does, and it does it well. It's not it's not the coming of the Messiah. It's not anything like that, for sure. But it is a good, well presented game that does what it says on the tin. And it's just a game. Like I said earlier, I think that's what we want in the hobby. So if you like these kind of reviews, you like these kind of discussions and topics, please like, subscribe, share the video. If you want to support the channel, check out my books. There's a link to them on my Substack. I'll link my Substack in the video description or in the pinned comment below. And or support the channel via joining here on YouTube. You can join on the Gilded server, which there's links to that on the Substack page, as well as on the Gilded server, where we have lots of cool discussions about old school games and the games we love and run. We get very in depth on them. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. I hope you liked it. Again, like, subscribe, share the video, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.